Hey guys, it's Eric, owner of Farpoint Farms, and tonight I'm going to do a video that's just a little bit different. It's not really a review or an educational video. Well, I don't know, maybe it's an educational video. Anyway, here it is. I get tons of emails and tons of messages on here on YouTube, which I enjoy getting, by the way. But they're all saying similar things to this, and that is, man, I really like CB, but whenever I turn my radio on, there's no one around. It's always dead space. And there are parts of the country where CB is pretty close to extinct, but for the most part, what's really going on is you're just missing the conversation. Just because you turn your radio on and roll through the band and don't find anybody talking doesn't mean there aren't people talking at that exact moment within range. And to demonstrate that, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn on my, well, it's already on, but I'm going to turn the volume up on my little unit in Grant here. I'm going to go just straight AM mode. And I'm going to roll through the 40 channels, and odds are I'm going to give it, a second or two on each channel. I won't hear a thing. But then I'm going to roll through it again and listen a little harder. And I'll bet you by the third time I roll through this, somebody will have said something, because that's usually the way it works. You can go through the channels and nothing pops up, but somebody's out there talking, and it's oftentimes somebody's having a conversation with somebody that's actually farther out, and you can't hear that person. So you may be missing out on local traffic because they're letting someone talk that you can't hear. That doesn't mean you can't be part of that conversation. That's the beauty of CB. That's the way it works. A lot of times messages are relayed, or you just calmly wait your turn to get in on the conversation by doing a friendly break channel, right? So anyway, let's get going here. Let's see what happens. Okay, so there's no one on the radio, man. This is just, it's dead. There's no one out here tonight. It's crazy, man. This is just a bummer, right? And this is something you can tune your ear to listening to. As I rolled through the 40 channels of static, I heard different pitches in that static, and that usually indicates that there is a signal out there, and that usually indicates that somebody is talking. They're just talking outside the range or distance that your radio can pick it up. But it's still creating a difference in the background noise. Now you can use that to your advantage. You can stop on those channels, let it sit for a little while, and see if you get any traffic that you can hear. I don't remember which channels they were, to be honest with you, but I'll go through it until I hear a change in pitch, and we'll try again. Alright, we're not going to count channel 6. That's the Super Bowl channel. 6 and sometimes 11 get used as what's called the Super Bowl. I don't know why it's called the Super Bowl, but that's where a bunch of guys who have what's called competition rigs, and those are people who take radios like this and they juice them up and they'll add like 5,000 or 6,000 watt amplifiers, and they kind of brag to each other on channel 6 and 11. It's been going on since I was a little guy, and I have a feeling it'll be going on long after I'm gone. So we'll ignore that, but we'll move on to another station. Well, there we go. That's channel 11. That's the Super Bowl as well. Isn't it interesting, though, that on our first run through this, we didn't hear anything. Nothing but static. Actually, that might be local traffic. No. That's Super Bowl traffic overlapping each other. There we go. move on to another channel. This is a good example of radio at its fringe. This is a group of people having a conversation on channel 15, and they're down there below the 1 bar. Now, 1 or 2 of these individuals might be within range. Okay, so that's channel 15. I have no idea who these folks are, but that's definitely local traffic. One of them's definitely within range that if I chose to try to communicate with him, I might get a response back if he wasn't in the middle of a conversation with somebody. But let's move on again. And isn't it interesting that the first time we rolled through these stations, there was nothing. And you know what's interesting also is the next time I roll through these channels, there may be nothing. But this time when I rolled through, we're getting quite a bit. This is channel 19, the trucker channel. The thing is, where I am located right now, channel 19 doesn't get used by truckers because there's no highways within any distance of this place. Maybe 45 minutes down the road, you could get to a highway, probably even farther than that. So it's not unusual at all to get local traffic on 19. Channel 20 appears to have some local traffic. Now, channel 20 and sometimes channel 16, I do get 2 local groups that I do communicate with from time to time. They're in Tennessee. A few of them are in North Carolina, but most of the time, depending on weather conditions, I can communicate back and forth with them. '21 has somebody talking. '26 is also becoming what I think a Super Bowl channel is. A bunch of guys yelling at each other with ginormous amplifiers backing them up. That might have been a little bit of skip. We got somebody communicating on lower sideband, so let's see what they have to say.
Whiskey 294, this is Connecticut. 68 copy.
CQDX, this is Farpoint Farms in the mountains of North Carolina. Looking for a break.
Hi, Whiskey 294, this is Connecticut. 687, do you happen to copy?
Roger that, Connecticut. It's good to hear from you. This is North Carolina. You're making the signal loud and clear. I'm getting off track. Let me back up and we'll finish this thing off. Okay, so I don't know if the point of this video is getting across very well. I'm having a hard time. I've been trying to figure out a way to make a video like this, but you know, CB radio has its ups and downs. There's no denying it. Some nights the bands are crazy talkative, and other nights they're kind of quiet. My point is, this is probably one of the better nights. It's a Saturday night. It's 8 o'clock now since we've been making this video. We started about 7:30. And the first time I rolled through the band, it was dead. There was nothing going on. All I heard was static, a few different changes in pitch and static, which indicates to me that there are some people out there talking, but nothing that I could pick up. I readjusted the camera. That couldn't have taken more than a minute or two. Turned it back on, and lo and behold, on multiple channels, we were getting some skip in there. The Super Bowl channels were coming through all of a sudden, which, those come and go. But we were getting local traffic on 2 or 3 of those stations. And then, of course, sideband on lower 38 was working lovely. I was able to make a quick contact with the station in Connecticut. Some of that I had to edit out because I don't want to give away my exact location. And that's just me being paranoid probably, but still. I'm in the mountains of North Carolina, and that's as far as I want to take that conversation. Anyway, that is the gist of it. So the next time you turn your radio on, if you are new to the hobby and you turn it on and you roll through the channels after taking all the time to set up a nice antenna and a radio and all the rest, and you find nothing, don't be disheartened, okay? There are groups, there are still people like me out there all the time listening and talking. The thing is, there's not as many as there was in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, or even the 2000s. There's just probably 10,000 of us left, okay? Maybe 15,000, but probably not. And as a result, you're not going to hear us talking all the time. But the groups do tend to get together, and every area has at least one group. I'm sure of it. You just got to find them, and you got to figure out what time they are normally hanging out on the radio. Fridays and Saturday nights are usually the time when people get together and chat. During the summertime, it may be every night after work. But in the wintertime, I usually find Fridays and Saturday nights between about 7 and 10 p.m., maybe 11 p.m., depending on what's going on in the world, is when locals will get together on their base stations or out in their mobiles and talk and go back and forth. And most of those conversations nowadays are actually quite positive conversations. There's trash talkers out there still, but they're pretty rare. It's less in North Carolina anyway, they're pretty rare. In the parts of Tennessee that I pick up regularly, yeah, they're very, very rare. So that's a good positive thing. It's a safe hobby for young people to get into if you're interested in introducing your kids to this. It's not like it was in the 90s or the 80s anymore. There's still cussing out there, but it's nothing like it used to be. And that's it. I'm Eric, owner of Farpoint Farms. I hope you got some information or some use out of this video. I'm not trying to preach. I get a lot of comments that people are kind of disappointed that they set stuff up and ended up thinking that there's nothing going on around them. I guess this video really sums up the fact that you just need to give it another chance. Spin through that dial, leave it on. Turn the squelch down maybe so you don't hear the static quite as loud, but leave it on. If you're lucky enough to have a radio that has an auto scan function, man, definitely let it roll. Let it just roll. Leave the radio on in your car, put the squelch up, and let it roll until you find somebody. And when you find somebody, get involved. Get in the conversation. That's it. I'm Eric, and I'll see you next time. Take care.